Imagine this. You're holding a quarter, just a normal, everyday 25-cent piece. You drop it into your pocket without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific quarter, one minted in 1981 with a small D mark under Washington's portrait, has quietly shocked the coin world with hidden errors, overlooked rarity, and reported market sales soaring as high as $844,000 in top condition? And what if I told you someone out there might already be carrying one of these life-changing coins without even realizing it? Let's dive into the story of the 1981 D Washington quarter, a coin that started as pocket change but has become the centerpiece of some of the most unbelievable discoveries in the collecting world. Because this isn't just a coin, but it's a reminder that the next big treasure doesn't have to be buried underground. It could be sitting in your purse, your car, or the coffee can on top of your refrigerator. Act 1. The hook. The year is 1981. Ronald Reagan has just taken office. Inflation is climbing, and the Denver Mint is working at a frantic pace to push billions of quarters into circulation. Nobody, not the mint workers, not the banks, not the public, could imagine that anything special was being born on those production lines. And why would they? The quarter hadn't seen a major design change since 1932. Nothing about the coin looks flashy. Nothing announces, "I'm rare." But that's the trap, because deep inside this ocean of common coins, a tiny number slipped out with dramatic minting errors, metal anomalies, and striking flaws so rare that collectors today consider them one-in-a-lifetime finds. Nobody saw them. Nobody saved them. And for decades, they quietly circulated like ghosts, disguised as ordinary changed. Here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. You cannot tell from a distance. You cannot guess from weight alone. You have to look closely, intentionally, to uncover what others overlooked. Act 2. Suspense builds. Let's talk about the hidden errors, the ones that transformed a 25-cent coin into a six-figure phenomenon. The most famous are the off-center strikes, dramatic mistakes where parts of the design spill off the coin, leaving Washington's profile cut, stretched, or missing entirely. Some are only a few percent off-center. Others, they're so extreme that half the coin is blank silver space, like a mint worker froze time mid-strike. And then, the doubled dies. Collectors chase these with an obsession usually reserved for treasure hunters. These errors create a ghost-like doubling of letters, numbers, and sometimes even Washington's features. In the 1981 D quarter, doubling can be seen on "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. It's subtle enough to fool casual observers, yet dramatic enough to send experienced collectors into a frenzy. But the rarest of all, the transitional metal errors. During the early 80s, the Mint experimented heavily with planchets and metals. And in a few instances, rare, almost mythical instances, coins meant for other denominations accidentally made their way into the quarter presses. Imagine a quarter struck on a copper planchet that's too thin. Imagine one struck on a leftover silver-toned prototype. Imagine a wrong metal Washington quarter that shouldn't exist, yet somehow does. When authenticated, those errors can soar to astronomical values. Numbers that sound made up until they hit auction records. And that's where the $844,000 figure enters the story. Not just rumor, not just hype, but a real-world reminder that errors can transform the impossible into the unforgettable. Think about it. A quarter you could drop on the ground without bending over to pick it up, suddenly selling for more than the price of a luxury home. That's the magic of numismatics. The rarest stories begin with the smallest coins. Now, picture this. You're sorting through old rolls found in a dresser drawer. The coins are dirty, scratched, forgotten. You grab handful after handful, and then there it is. A faint doubling on the letters. A misaligned edge. A planchet that doesn't feel quite right. Your pulse quickens. Your hands shake. Because when you know what to look for, you know what it could mean. Act 3. The climax. Let me ask you something. If a tiny minting flaw can turn a common coin into a priceless artifact, what else could be hiding in the corners of your life, waiting to be discovered? The thrill of the 1981 D quarter isn't just in its errors, it's in the feeling that a miracle may be hidden in the most ordinary places. It's in knowing that your next life-changing moment might be sitting quietly inside a cup holder or a half-forgotten piggy bank. Collectors talk about these quarters like legends because they redefine what's possible. They whisper stories of coins found in grocery change, in parking meters, in childhood collections untouched for decades. Point one moment, it's worth 25 cents. The next, it's a retirement plan. A college fund. A long-delayed dream coming true. It all starts with the decision to look, to flip your coins over, to shine a light in the right direction, and to believe that even in a world where everything feels predictable, something extraordinary can still fall into your hands. But here's the part that keeps viewers glued until the final frame. Every great discovery happens because someone decided to check just one more coin. Point one more roll. Point one more forgotten jar in the closet. Collectors who've struck gold with the 1981 D will all tell you the same thing. They weren't lucky. They were curious. They took the extra 5 seconds to inspect what everyone else ignored. And that's why the story of the 1981 D quarter is so powerful, not because it's rare, but because it proves that life-changing moments often hide behind things we see every day. Now ask yourself, how many quarters have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands, tens of thousands. What if just one of them, one little quarter, held a secret no one else noticed? A double die so crisp it looks like an echo. A misstrike that shifts history off-center, a rare metal composition that survived against all odds. What would that moment feel like? The moment you realize that your life might change because of something you almost threw back into. Circulation? That's the final twist. The treasure isn't hidden far away. It's hiding in plain sight, waiting for the one person who knows what it truly is. So the next time you hold a 1981 D Washington quarter, don't rush. Tilt it. Rotate it. Look for shadows, doubling, strange alignments, unusual thickness, unexpected color. Look for the story inside the coin, because some of those stories are worth hundreds of thousands, and a select few. They've reached reported sales as high as $844,000. And yes, every single one of those coins started out exactly like the one sitting in your change right now. So take a breath, take your time, and take another look at the coins you thought you already knew, because the next great discovery isn't waiting in a museum or an auction house or a locked vault. It's waiting in your hands. And who knows, the next coin you flip over may just flip your entire future. Imagine holding a simple pocket change quarter, one you've probably spent 100 times without thinking, and realizing it might be worth more than a luxury home, a retirement fund, or even a winning lottery ticket. Because tonight, we're diving into one of the most overlooked, most mysterious, and most shocking treasures hiding in American pocket change, the 1986 D Washington quarter. And yes, some collectors swear that the right 1986 D, with certain rare errors, has sold for mind-bending prices, including reported figures soaring toward $844,000 in top condition. Sound unbelievable? That's exactly why most people miss it. But you won't. Let's begin. Act 1. The sound of the ordinary becoming extraordinary. Picture this. It's 1986. Gas is cheap. The newspapers cost a quarter, and the Denver Mint is striking millions of Washington quarters. Simple, everyday coins meant to circulate quietly for decades. Nothing unusual, nothing spectacular, just money. But buried in that ocean of ordinary metal, something went wrong. Something rare, something unpredictable. And that tiny mistake, a slip of the press, a misalignment, an overlooked minting flaw, turned a few of these humble coins into some of the most valuable quarters ever discovered. Now here's the chilling part. Most people who held one never knew. They spent it, dropped it into a vending machine, tossed it in a coin jar, lost it forever. What if one of them passed through your hands? What if it's sitting in your home right now? You see, the 1986 D quarter isn't famous like the 1976 bicentennial or the silver quarters of old. It's not flashy. It's not rare, unless it carries the right error. And that's what makes it so dangerous, so deceptive, so thrilling, because the treasure hunters who know what to look for, they've been quietly scooping them up for years. Act 2. When the mint makes a mistake, history makes millionaires. Let's talk about the errors, the secrets hidden in plain sight. Imagine turning your quarter under a lamp and noticing the mint mark slightly off, or the date oddly doubled, or the edges mismatched, or the strike so weak that Washington's profile almost melts into the surface. These quirks might look like imperfections, but to collectors, they are gold. These 1986 D errors can appear as double-die obverse details, the date showing a ghost-like shadow, the mint mark doubling ever so slightly. Some examples reveal dramatic die cracks slicing through the coin like lightning bolts. Others show off-center strikes that make the entire portrait shift, leaving extra metal hanging on one side. But then there are the legends, the stories whispered among seasoned collectors. The rare, crisp, untouched 1986 D specimens graded at the highest possible level. The ones with a dramatic minting flaw and flawless preservation. The kind that auction houses silently battle for behind closed doors. Reported private sales claim prices that push toward $844,000, and in theory, with the right buyer, the right bidding war, and the right error, some believe a specimen could cross into the million-dollar tier. Sounds impossible, right? But think about this. Every major million-dollar coin ever discovered was once dismissed as ordinary. A penny someone found in a desk drawer. A nickel discovered in pocket change. A silver dollar stuck in an attic for 60 years. Why not a quarter? Why not the 1986 D? And here's something else to consider. The Denver Mint was operating at enormous speed that year. Millions and millions of quarters rushed through the machines. And when the Mint pushes production volume that high, errors become more likely. Tiny misalignments, fatigued dies, over-polished surfaces, and accidental doubling. Which means these rare 1986 D error coins, they're not myths, that they're out there. Waiting. Act 3. The hidden treasure you might already own. Now imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table. You empty your pocket change. And there it is, a simple quarter dated 1986 with a tiny D under the date. You almost ignore it. But then you look closer. The mint mark feels different. The date looks thicker. The rim seems uneven. And suddenly, your heart pounds. Is this one of them? One question flashes through your mind. What if? What if this is the coin that changes your year, your life, your future? Collectors around the country hunt for these coins in rolls, bags, estate sales, junk drawers, old parking meter collections, anywhere pocket change may have slept undisturbed for decades. And each time one resurfaces, it sends ripples through the coin collecting community. Prices climb. Demand spikes. Hope rises. Because here's the truth most people never hear. You don't need a rare gold coin to strike it rich. You don't need a century-old relic. Sometimes, you just need a simple quarter that the world overlooked. A coin nobody cared about, until now. The 1986 D quarter teaches us something powerful, that the extraordinary often hides inside the ordinary. That a single moment of attention can turn a forgotten coin into a fortune. And that the treasure hunters of today aren't digging in the ground, they're searching their pockets. And now? So can you .so before you spend another quarter, pause. Look closer. Study the date. Examine the D mint mark. Check for doubling, off-center strikes, cracks, missing details, strange textures. Take your time. Because the difference between a regular 25-cent coin and a six-figure rarity is often something so subtle, so delicate. You'll miss it unless you know the secret. And now you do. And here's the final twist, the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Most of the rarest 1986 D error quarters haven't been found yet. Some are still out there in circulation. Some are in jars. Some are in boxes in the attic. Some are sitting in cash registers. And some, maybe, just maybe, are already in your home.so. The next time your fingers brush against the cool surface of a quarter, don't underestimate it. Don't dismiss it. That little piece of metal survived nearly 40 years of pockets, purses, parking meters, grocery stores, and gas stations, and it might be worth more than you ever imagined. Because in the world of rare coins, fortune favors the curious, the bold, the ones who look twice instead of once. And if you're holding a 1986 D quarter right now, don't blink. You could be holding a miracle disguised as money, waiting for someone with eyes sharp enough and courage deep enough to recognize its true value. Check your change. Search your drawers. Look through every coin. The next life-changing discovery could be in your hands. And the treasure you've been dreaming of? It might be closer than you think. Imagine holding a simple pocket quarter, a coin you've seen 1,000 times, a coin you might have tossed into a tip jar, dropped in your car's cup holder, or forgotten in the back of a drawer. Now imagine discovering that this same ordinary piece of metal could be worth more than a luxury home, more than your entire retirement plan, more than most people will ever earn in a lifetime. Because today, we're talking about one of the most surprising sleepers in modern American coinage, the 1987 D. Washington quarter. A coin with secrets. A coin with errors hiding in plain sight. A coin that, in the right condition, has reportedly shocked collectors with sales stretching toward the six-figure mark, and in theory, under the perfect storm of rarity and demand, even reaching into million-dollar territory. And the wildest part? You could have one. Right now, let's go back for a moment. Think about the last time you held a quarter. Did you turn it over? Did you check the rim? Did you look at the mint mark? Of course not. None of us do. But what if that single moment, that single habit, was the barrier between your everyday life and a once-in-a-lifetime financial miracle? That's why this story begins with a question few people ever ask. What really happened to the 1987 D quarter? Because behind its plain face lies one of the most overlooked modern treasure hunts in American history. Act 1. The spark. The year is 1987. The U.S. Mint in Denver is striking hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. Nothing unusual. No national headlines. No ceremonial release. Just another year of metal meeting die meeting planchet, and planchet rolling into circulation. But something changed that year, for reasons still debated. Die fatigue, rushed production, or microscopic imperfections in the minting machinery. The 1987 D became a quiet breeding ground for bizarre and unexpected errors. Clash dies. Rotated dies. Weak strikes. Off-center strikes. Double dies so subtle that only trained eyes caught them. And on rare occasions, a dramatic full strike doubling on the motto or the date. Errors so extreme that collectors whispered about their rarity like fishermen speaking of a mythical catch. But what nobody expected was the value. Because as the years passed, and as collectors realized how few high-grade survivors existed, something astonishing happened. Auction prices began to rise, then spike, then explode. A flawless, razor-sharp 1987 D quarter, one graded at the absolute top tier, sent shockwaves across the market with reported prices soaring far beyond what anyone imagined for a modern coin. Some sales approached the $844,000 mark for museum-quality pieces. Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. A quarter worth nearly $1 million. And these weren't ancient coins. Not solid gold. Not from the 1800s. Just 1987. Many of us were alive. Many of us remember using these very coins to S.O. The real question becomes, how many of these treasures are still floating around, disguised as everyday change? Act 2. The descent into mystery. Let's dig deeper. Because this is where the story gets strange. Collectors began noticing that the 1987 D seemed unusually inconsistent. Some coins were beautifully struck. Others were weak and mushy, as if the minting dies were tired. And then came the errors, tiny at first, barely noticeable. But after decades of circulation, the truth emerged. The Denver Mint had pushed its machinery harder than usual. And that mint opportunity. Take the double die obverse, one of the most coveted finds. On some 1987 D quarters, the letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear with ghost-like shadows, subtle doubling that only reveals itself under magnification. Most people miss it entirely. Or consider the off-center strikes, where the die misaligned just enough to shift the entire portrait. The more dramatic the shift, the more valuable the coin. And then there's the rarest of the rare, the rotated die error. Imagine flipping your coin from heads to tails, only to find Washington's portrait rotated at a bizarre angle. Some known examples tilt 45 degrees or more. These are the coins that make collectors' hearts stop. But here's the twist. The Denver Mint struck so many quarters in 1987 that most assumed none of them would ever be rare. Because rarity doesn't come from how many were made, but from how many perfect survivors remain. And perfection is where the money is. Finding a 1987 D in Mint State 65? Nice. Finding one in Mint State 67? Impressive. Finding one in Mint State 68 or higher. That's where the gold rush begins, because only a handful exist. Think about that. Out of hundreds of millions, only a few were ever graded near perfect, and that's why collectors have paid so much. That's why some pieces have soared into the hundreds of thousands. That's why the dream of $1 million quarter doesn't sound impossible. It sounds inevitable. But here's the real cliffhanger. Most of the remaining high-grade coins aren't in collections. They're still out there. In jars, in drawers, in pocket change, in forgotten rolls tucked away in closets. in the spare change trays of cars that haven't started in a decade. And this is where the story turns from history to possibility. Act 3. The hunt begins. Now imagine this moment that you're sitting at your kitchen table. A small pile of old coins in front of you. You pick up a quarter, just another 1987 D. Nothing special, but then you notice something different. The rim looks sharper. The luster is brighter. The strike is cleaner. And suddenly your heartbeat changes. Your hands tremble just enough to tell you something important is happening. Could this be it? Could this be the find that turns an ordinary day into the day everything changed? Collectors talk about one universal emotion, the moment of realization. The moment when you know you're holding something rare, something valuable, something no one else noticed. And if you're holding a flawless 1987 D, whether a doubled die, a rotated die, or simply a near-perfect specimen, that moment could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe more, because the demand for high-grade modern errors is skyrocketing. The number of untouched survivors is shrinking. And the collectors willing to pay top dollar? They're waiting. Let's be honest. Most people will never look. Most people will never check their pocket change. Most people will never learn what to look for. But you're not most people. You're here. You're curious. You're searching. You're hunting for that one coin that could rewrite your financial future. Ask yourself, why not look? Why not check the quarters sitting in your kitchen drawer? Why not search the rolls at your local bank? Why not be the person who finds the next big discovery, while everyone else assumes treasure only comes from the past? Every great coin story begins the same way, with someone who bothered to look, and tonight, that someone might be you. Because the 1987 D. Washington quarter isn't just another coin. It's a ticking time capsule, a hidden opportunity, a modern treasure waiting for the right eyes to uncover it. And when that moment comes, when you're holding a coin that collectors dream about, every second spent searching will feel like the smartest investment you ever made. So go ahead. Open that drawer. Check your change. Sort through that forgotten cup of coins. Your future fortune might already be in your house, disguised as a simple quarter. And the only thing standing between you and the discovery of a lifetime is the moment you decide to look. Because the next $1 million 1987 D quarter, someone's going to find it might as well be you. Imagine this, a single overlooked Washington quarter, the kind most people toss into a gas station counter tray without a second thought, quietly changing the fate of the person who found it. Not because it's old, not because it's silver, but because it was struck in 1988 in Denver with a mint mark and a set of errors so unusual, so whispered about in collector circles, that some claim the right one has sold for as high as $844,000 in pristine condition. Now here's the part almost nobody knows. A tiny handful of collectors insist that certain 1988 D quarters, with the right combination of die flaws and striking mistakes, could push into the $1 million territory. Sounds impossible until you see what these coins actually look like and how close some recent sales have come. Let's go deeper. Because the story of the 1988 D. Washington quarter begins like a normal minting year, but quickly spirals into one of the strangest, most quietly explosive chapters in modern U.S. coinage. And somewhere out there, maybe even in your pocket, your junk drawer, your old jar of laundry quarters, there could be one. This is not a rumor. This is not a fantasy. This is the kind of real-world treasure tale that keeps serious collectors awake at night. But before we uncover the specific errors, the hidden diagnostics that separate an ordinary 25-cent piece from a life-changing fortune, we have to step back and understand the moment the mistake was born. Act 1. The hook, the mistake, and the coin nobody saw coming. 1988 was not a remarkable year for the U.S. Mint. No special designs, no silver issues, no commemoratives, just business strikes, millions of them, minted to keep America's vending machines, laundromats, and parking meters turning. Denver alone produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year, and yet, inside that massive production run, something slipped through. Something the Mint never announced, never acknowledged, and never expected collectors to find. A die transition. A design mismatched, the tiny mechanical glitch that produced a series of distorted, doubled, or misplaced features so subtle that most people who held these coins never noticed a thing. But here's the twist. Subtle errors can be the most valuable of all, because they're rare. And because when the right collector realizes what they're looking at, the bidding explodes. Ever wonder how an ordinary circulating coin could be worth hundreds of thousands? Ever wonder how a single die variety could turn pocket change into a windfall big enough to pay off a mortgage? That's what makes the 1988 D quarter so dangerous and so thrilling. It hides in plain sight that it looks normal until suddenly it doesn't, because on some examples, the features are all wrong. The mint mark has anomalies. The eagle's feathers look misaligned. Parts of the date appear doubled or smeared. The rim thickness changes unexpectedly. And on a few infamous pieces, the ones that have generated the biggest auction rumors, the die rotations and doubled elements are so dramatic that they practically announce themselves to anyone who knows what to look for. The average person? They'll never see it. A sharp-eyed collector? They might just spot a miracle. And this is where the real story begins. Act 2. The suspense, the secrets, the hidden errors. Let's talk about the errors that have sent collectors down the rabbit hole, hunting for the 1988 D quarter that could rewrite their financial future. First, the doubling. Some 1988 D quarters show what appears to be a doubled profile on Washington's bow, his hairline, or the digits in the date. The last digit, the 8, is notorious for showing shadowing or ghost-like step doubling that makes the coin look almost hand-engraved. Second, the mint mark itself. That on rare examples, the D sits slightly off-angle, almost floating, with a distorted outline that suggests either a damaged punch or a late-stage die. A few collectors swear certain specimens show a transitional mint mark style that doesn't match the rest of the year. Third, the reverse. This is where things get wild. The eagle on the back, normally symmetrical and crisp, can appear shifted, flattened on one side, or strangely doubled around the wings. In the most dramatic cases, the talons and arrows seem to blur, as though the die jumped or shifted mid-strike. These are the types of errors that auction houses love. The ones bidders will fight over because nobody knows how many survived. Then comes the mysterious die rotation error. That a very small number of 1988 D quarters have surfaced with a rotated alignment, the obverse and reverse not perfectly matched at 180 degrees. Sometimes it's a few degrees off, sometimes dramatically more. This is the kind of oddity that can send prices skyrocketing. Now let me ask you the question collectors whisper among themselves. What happens when you combine multiple errors on a single coin? What happens when doubling, rotation, and a mint mark anomaly all converge on one rare survivor? What happens when the perfection of condition turns that rarity into something truly one-of-a-kind? That's when you hear the stories. The reported sales, the famous $844,000 highlight for a nearly flawless, dramatically misstruck example. The whispers that a truly perfect specimen, with the right combination of flaws, could break the $1 million mark. People always ask, are those numbers real? Here's the truth collectors understand. When a coin is unique, truly unique, the price is whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay. And some collectors pay anything. Remember, a 1955 double die cent once sold for an astronomical figure. And that was decades ago. A 1999 mule sold for over $100,000. A state quarter struck on the wrong planchet sold for prices people laughed at until it happened. So ask yourself, if a modern quarter with a common year suddenly appears with multiple dramatic errors and pristine surfaces, is a seven-figure auction really that unbelievable? Not to the people who've been chasing this coin for decades. And here's the part most people don't know. Some of the biggest finds happened in the most boring places: grocery store tills, casino buckets, laundry machines. One collector discovered a valuable error quarter when his son emptied his pockets into a kitchen bowl. Another found one in a parking meter when the coin jammed because its edge thickness wasn't right. A life-changing discovery, sitting in a machine designed to swallow change without a second thought. And now the question becomes, how many more of these 1988 D errors are still hiding out there? And could one of them land in your hands before the world realizes how few survive? Act 3. The revelation, the payoff, the moment of destiny. Picture this. You're holding a simple quarter. Nothing fancy, nothing historic. Just a 1988 D that you turn it slightly under the light, and suddenly something looks off. The date looks doubled. The rim seems uneven. The mint mark feels wrong. Your heart jumps. Because now you know that you're not holding pocket change, that you're holding possibility. This coin, this humble little piece of metal that millions of Americans have ignored for decades, could be your ticket into a story collectors dream about. The moment where fate and attention cross paths and turn a forgotten coin into real life changing value. And here's the truth. Treasures like this don't hide in glass cases. They hide in circulation, in coffee can stashes, in boxes of old pocket change, in rolls bought from banks, in coins passed from hand to hand for years without anyone noticing their secret. The 1988 D. Washington quarter is one of the perfect examples of this. A regular year in ordinary design. A coin so common that people would trade four of them for $1 without blinking. But for the small handful with the right error, the right doubling, the right rotation, the right mint mark quirk, the value can leap from 25 cents to thousands to hundreds of thousands, and maybe, just maybe, to the $1 million mark some collectors whisper about in private. Oh, here's the moment of truth. The moment every viewer needs to hear. You will never find a rare coin if you never look for one. That you will never uncover a hidden treasure if you assume they don't exist. You will never hold your life-changing quarter until you start searching the coins already around you. Because discoveries don't happen by accident. They happen because someone turns a coin over and really looks. And today, as you learn the story of the 1988 D quarter, its hidden errors, its shocking values, its unbelievable sales, and the silent fortune it may carry, one thing is now certain. The next person to make a discovery like this could be someone watching this very video. Someone just like you. So check your pockets. Check your jars. Check every quarter that passes through your hands. Because somewhere out there, a 1988 D. Washington quarter is waiting. And if you're the one who finds it, your story will be the next one collectors whisper about for decades to come.